All right, hello everyone. So let me just share my presentation with you. Okay. So let me just see if everyone is seeing my screen. I believe so. Hopefully it is sharing already. Okay, I'm just going to press play. Okay, so let me just see if this is working. Yes, we can see it. Perfect. All right, so hi everyone. Sorry about this small introduction in the beginning. So my name is Telmo Sampaio. I'm a software engineer and instructor, and I'm currently working at CodeNation, which is a software development bootcamp where we are training people to become software and web developers. But today I'm going to be talking to you about a day in the life of a web developer, because before I was working in different jobs as a web developer. And the first job that I'm going to talk about is going to be my first job, actually, that it was at iProspect, which was a digital agency. And the main things that I'm going to be talking about is going to be about my day-to-day life, what I was doing in there. I'm going to be talking about some of the challenges that I had in there and the skills that I think that I learned in there. So the pictures that we have in here was actually very similar to what the office looks like. So it was very nice environment. Everyone was really friendly. So it was actually one of my favorite jobs that I have before. So talking about junior developers, what kind of candidates are the companies looking for? So this is a question that it's kind of a thing that junior developers still are not sure. People who are starting to try to get into the industry, trying to get their first job, they are really not sure what the companies are looking for on a candidate. And a lot of people still think that the thing that weighs the most is going to be your technical skills, which is not necessarily true. Of course, you guys need to have your technical skills in order to get that first job. You need to have some certain knowledge, but that's not the major point that companies are looking for on candidates. They are looking for people who will fit well in their teams, in their company culture. They are looking for people who are can see that they are really friendly. They will hang out well with the rest of the team. They can see that you want to learn and you want to progress your skills. They really want to see people who want to solve problems. They don't want to see people that join a job, they just can't do something, they just cross their arms and that's it. So they want these kind of people that they will do any extra step that they have to in order to get the job done, of course. And just to give some examples of these, some of our students even at CodeNation, when they get some jobs, sometimes they are 2 weeks into the course or 3 weeks, they still don't have a lot of knowledge and they already get hired, because companies know that the skills, the technical skills, can be taught to someone, but the other kind of skills not so much. So talking about these main role at iProspect, I was a front end developer in there, so I was building front end interfaces, and my main role in there was about conversion rate optimization. So what does this mean? The conversion rate optimization. Um, Basically, when you go into a website, a company has a website, maybe they are trying to people to sign up for a form, or maybe they want to sell a product or something like that. Sometimes the websites, maybe they have some bugs on it, maybe the user experience is not so great. And when I'm talking about the user experience, I'm sure that most of it could be kind of common sense, but other not so much. So A common sense could be, for example, when you guys go into a website and you try to click on a button, maybe you expect something to happen, and sometimes it doesn't. Maybe there could be a bug on the website or something that is not working properly. So this makes a bad user experience and might leave the user to, for example, leave the page. Other things could be, for example, when the user is looking for a certain information on the page and they are looking everywhere and they just can't find it. So this could be another way of a bad user experience. And basically, my main role was to build these user interfaces to make sure that everything was a bit more easier for the user to achieve, of course. So my daily program, it could be a bit different from day to day, of course, but this was generally what we would go through. So in the morning, we should have a morning stand-up. We would have some sort of a meeting with everyone from the team, just really to talk about what we have been doing, what we're going to do. And I'm going to be covering a bit more about this in the next slide. Another thing that I would do would be conducting some interviews about user experience for data analysis, which I'm going to cover as well in a different slide in more detail. Another thing would be, for example, as well, the design and building and optimization of the web pages. So this would be actually where I would go start coding, start building this kind of user interfaces. And that's a thing that I enjoyed a lot, of course. And finally would be something like client meetings. So I would have to get some client meetings to talk about the project that I was just doing and explain some of the solutions that I come up with and why, basically. Okay, so talking about the morning stand-up. So every morning when we were meeting together with the team, we would be talking about the update on our current task. So if you have some sort of a task that they gave you to do, we would just like talk about, okay, what did we do yesterday and at what point we are at the moment. We would talk about as well, okay, what's going to be the plan for today? What do we plan to do today? Just to make sure that we can actually achieve that. Talking about anything that might be blocking the progress of our work, of course. Just to give you some small examples, sometimes I could be working on a page, and maybe I was missing some sort of copyright from the team that is writing the copy to the website. Sometimes maybe I could be waiting for some images or some other assets that I would have to add to my project, and I would have to be waiting for them to give it to me, and this would be blocking the progress of my work. So I would have to let know everyone in the team, of course. And also, this would be a good point in here to just like point out to our colleagues, to our manager, maybe if you are stuck on some kind of problem that you have no idea how to solve it, this could be a good idea to let them know, so other people, they could help you with this. And finally would be dealing with the deadlines. Of course, we all have deadlines to submit our projects to make sure that they are done, and this would be where we would be discussing these kind of things. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about something that I think that goes through the mind of the majority of junior developers. It went through my mind and through my colleagues and through many people that I've worked with. So I've just decided to talk a bit about this. And one of them is that when you are a junior developer and you are actually starting your first job, there's a lot of fears and myths that people they have. And one of them is that they will give you extremely difficult tasks. And let me just tell you that this is really not true. When you are starting a new job, There will be people all around you to give you really good advices, really give you a lot of help to make sure that you are just progressing and you are learning, and you are just really being taken care of. They want to make sure that you have a good experience and that you settle well in the company. So really don't be afraid that someone is going to give you some extremely difficult tasks, because this is definitely not going to happen. And if it does, if they give you something that you have no idea how to solve it, because that's my next point, you have no idea how to solve a particular task, guess what? This is what happens to everyone. This is what happens to me in my daily job. This is what happens to many people in their daily jobs as well. It's not just junior developers. Sometimes people come to us and they say, look, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And you are like, oh my God, how I'm going to do this? So everyone goes through this kind of situation. So really don't stress too much about it. There will be, like I said, some senior developers, some colleagues, some managers that they will be able to guide you, to give you some steps of how you can actually tackle these kind of tasks. The next point would be afraid of breaking up the code. Okay, this is something that a lot of people think as well, is that if you are working on a project, you are afraid that maybe you are going to delete all the lines of code that they are super important. Maybe you are going to destroy a database. I don't know, all these kind of things. And these most likely will never happen. Mainly because when we are dealing with code and with databases, we all have kind of backups and all these kind of things that make sure that we are safe. And another thing is that if there is something that is extremely sensitive, extremely important, that we don't want a junior developer to destroy, of course, no one will give you the task, no one will give you access to these kind of things. So don't be afraid of breaking up the code. Don't be afraid of nothing of this, because most likely it will not happen. Unless someone will tell you, of course, but it's not going to happen most likely. And finally, there is one that is, am I good enough? So this is a question that I was even asking myself when I got my first job. Before I got the job, am I ever going to ever get a job in web development? This is something that it's called the imposter syndrome, that we all go through it. Sometimes we are just comparing ourselves with our people, and we don't have to compare really ourselves with other people. You just should compare yourself like what you were in the past. And if you look to the past and you see to the point where you are at the moment, if you have been learning how to code, you will see that you know so much more right now than what you knew before. And you will keep progressing as the time goes on. So never be afraid of these, that if you are good enough or not. If you really want to do something, you can do it. Trust me on this. And there will be people always helping you in this path. Okay, so talking about this is some of the skills over time. So as I mentioned before, obviously companies, when they are hiring a junior developer, they are not expecting you to have this huge technical knowledge. They understand that you are someone new into the industry. They understand that they will give you a lot of guidance and a lot of training. So what is usually expected is for you to have like a small increase of the progress of your knowledge over time. And especially between this kind of first 4 months, 3-4 months, most of the companies, when they hire someone new, they have this kind of 3 months probation to see if you are really a good fit to the company or not. And if you are really like learning something new every day, you are doing your job. When you get stuck on something, you ask for help and then you learn from it. You could see that your skills are actually increasing over time. So this is usually like a typical graph, just to see if the knowledge of a junior developer in their first 3-4 months, just increasing like really slowly. You think maybe after 3 months or 4 months that maybe you still don't know too much. But if you really look at it closely, you will see that you learned quite a lot just in the first few months. Okay, so another part of my job at iProspect was to just do some interviews with people about how we could actually improve the user experience from the websites. And this was actually a really cool part of my job, which was we were going on to a special room on Media City. And this special room in there, we were interviewing people that I think that this kind of thing was coming on the newspaper or something like that. We were paying each different person, I believe it was £50 for half an hour of an interview with us. And this person, they would, for example, stand in this room, and I would tell them, for example, I remember one project that I was working for was with the Manchester Airport, that they wanted to increase the sales of the car park. So when people, they are going to travel, they just leave their car in there, and they just wanted to increase their performance on the website for people to just go when they book some sort of holidays. They can also leave the car parked in there. And we were asking people, can you just go in here onto this website and try to make sure that you can book this kind of car parking, or someone to come and pick up your car. And people, they were using different devices. We had desktop, laptop, a tablet, a phone. So we would ask people to just go over it and just talk like out loud what they were thinking and how they could actually achieve that, what we were asking them. And there was a lot of things talking in general that we take for granted, that maybe a lot of people, they don't take. So I will give you an example. Sometimes when we had, for example, a button that it says to add to basket, I'm sure that most of us, at least, we understand that when we click a button that says add to basket, it means that, okay, we have a basket where we're going to buy something, and we can do a checkout or something. But we had some users that they say, okay, I don't understand what's this add to basket. And they say, maybe if there was a button that says buy now, or a button that says checkout, they would understand. Other things would be, for example, when you have this kind of small letters somewhere on the website, and there is this kind of small asterisk. So we know that when we have this kind of small asterisk, this star next to some wording, means that somewhere around on the bottom of the page, there will be some more information about that. Some people, they didn't know nothing about this. So this is what really the user experience is about. Like, try to understand what people are trying to do with this, and see how it becomes easier for all the users. And of course, as you guys can see in here on the screen, we were also doing something called the heat maps. So we were checking the heat maps to see where people, they were mostly clicking on the page, and to see if with this kind of information, we could actually try to optimize the page. And finally, of course, we would have to write a report about all of these. Okay, now, after this kind of interviews with the users that usually would take, for example, a full day, this would happen, I think, if I don't forget, it was like once every 2 weeks that we would have this kind of interviews with the users. And then after that, and that we build the report of it, we would have to create some new designs, of course. And these designs would be based on what we had this experience with the users, would be creating some different pages on Photoshop with them. This could be, for example, changing some of the colors, some of the color schemes before from the page, maybe they were not the correct ones, maybe changing some of the buttons, some of the text, and maybe moving some elements around. And finally, we would create maybe like 2-3 designs, and then we would review them with the manager and to see which one would be the best. Okay, so finally, this would be the part where we would actually convert those designs onto HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this was like my part that I was really coding it in here. So the main part was obviously to convert the design onto code. I don't know about yourselves, but when I was starting out, I was really confused about a lot of things. I still had a lot to learn. And really, I got stuck a lot of times. And I was just asking some help to my colleagues, to my manager, and I was improving my code as I was going along, because when you're getting starting, of course, you are not the best. But hopefully, with the more and more practice that you do, you become better. Another thing that we were doing is the optimization of the page speed. So we sometimes take things for granted, like having a page that is super fast, but there is a lot of things behind it, like the code quality that you have, like, for example, the images that you have in there, if you have other plugins in there that they are slowing down the page. So this would be another thing that we would have to do in order to just optimizing the page speed and giving overall a better user experience to our users, of course. Finally, when I build the page, when I build everything, we would have to test it, make sure there is a quality assurance in there, make sure everything was working well. We were using at the time different devices, like physical devices in there, to test our code into mobiles, into tablets, into laptops, desktops, to make sure that it looks like well everywhere. And one important thing is, that's the job of a front-end developer, make sure that your code looks like on all different browsers, because this is another big topic, which is about the browser compatibility. Because sometimes when you are writing down some CSS code or some JavaScript, it may look well on your browser that you are working on at the moment, but then if you're going to test it on Internet Explorer or Edge or maybe Mozilla Firefox, it doesn't matter. Maybe it can work differently. So we would have to test it and make sure that it's uniform through all the different browsers. And finally, we would have to push our code for review. So the senior developers, managers, they could have a look into it, make sure that everything was okay and up to standard, and then, of course, publishing the code. So finally, when the code was being submitted, we would do something like this, like a A/B testing. And this kind of A/B testing was when we would publish our page that we just finished to code, we would split, for example, the traffic of that page into 2 different designs. Okay, we would create 2 different designs, like I mentioned before, and we would see from these 2 different designs which one was converting the best. And like I said, the conversion can be different. Some pages could be about buying something. Some other pages, they could be about someone downloading some sort of a report, or maybe signing up for a form. It would be different from website to website. And in here as well, we would have to be checking Google Analytics just to see how people they were behaving on the website. There were people just going onto the website, onto the page, and then just leaving immediately. Or maybe there were people trying to click on a button and nothing was happening. Things like this. So we were checking all of these. And obviously, these kind of campaigns were usually running for about 8 weeks. And after these 8 weeks, we would see which one of our variants would be working the best, of course. Finally, there will be some kind of client meetings. So I would have some client meetings, obviously not just by myself, because as a junior developer, you can understand that can be a bit stressful, but I was with the help of senior developers and managers as well, because I have been involved so closely, for example, with this project. I would have to talk about what I have been through with the project, just explain to the client what kind of process we took in order to come to this final result, and just tell them, look, we did all of these heat maps, we did all of these interviews, we have these results from Google Analytics, and we can see that this variant in here performed the best, so we believe that this would be the good one to just stick for the future. Finally, some of the challenges that I had during this time. So one of the challenges that I had during this time at CodeNation, my first job, like I said, was most of the times people giving me tasks and I had no idea how to start with that. So like I said, this is completely normal. Sometimes this happens, especially when you are in a complete new environment, you don't know anyone. It might be difficult a bit on the beginning, but like I said, there will be a lot of people all the time to be taking care of you, making sure that you are settling well, and you just need to do your part, of course. Another thing, another big challenge that I had was getting stuck in some small problems for too long. So this was something that was happening with me as well. I believe that sometimes we all go through these, which is we don't want to look bad. We want to make sure that we do our best and we try to solve it without being asking for help all the time. But just try to remember of this is that one day I spent almost like a full morning or almost a day with just one problem, that I had one semicolon in the wrong place and I couldn't find it because I was just so tired of it. And I spent almost one day or a full morning, I don't remember now, just on that. And if I would just go to someone to help me out with that, I would just like be much forward on my project. So just remember of that, guys. If you are stuck on something, if you are spending too much time on it, it would be wise just to ask help of someone, because most likely they have been through the same problem like you and they will just help you advance. And I have in here the poor time management, of course, is because of that. Finally, we have the imposter syndrome, that you think that you are not good enough, other people are better than you. Don't believe in that, guys, because we all go through this, and we always improve ourselves. Some of the key skills that I learned in there at iProspect was really my coding. Coding, I just like improved a lot. Obviously, when I got started, I knew a little bit about coding. I knew some things, but in the end of the day, when you are doing this full time every day as a job, your skills will definitely improve much more. Another thing that I improved was my design. I actually didn't know that I could design there at the job. My design skills were not the best, but you know what? There was designers in there. There was other people with more experience than me that they helped me, and this is something that I actually enjoyed. Another thing was problem solving. So, of course, the more problems that you are solving each and every single day, you become better. You just become better by doing it every day. New problems are coming and you are just solving them. You just become better at problem solving overall. And finally, I understood much better what were the needs of our clients, of our users, what they expect to see on a page, and so on. So these would be a kind of the core skills that I got from that job. So finally, what is next? So I actually, when I started my first job, I started a YouTube channel with my name. If you guys want, you can also have a look into that, where basically I just did like a journey about when I started my first job, what I was learning, how I was doing at the interviews. And this actual YouTube channel actually helped me with a lot of jobs, that when I was going into an interview, because I have done some kind of tutorials online, I was talking about myself, it would give a much better idea to the companies to see the person that I am, and if I was a good fit or not to the company. And let me tell you that it has worked very well until the end of today. So I would highly advise for all of you that you guys are trying to get your first job, get your foot into the door. We live in an era of social media, so if you can put this kind of thing out there about yourself, it really will benefit you. So I believe that's it for this presentation. So I hope everyone enjoyed it. And if you have any questions for me, of course, just let me know.